Who would you hire?
My number one choice is Xavi, because I need a guy who has a preference to, or at least a willingness to embrace the youth. I think we've clearly gone down this youth centric model, and I think that he's a good fit for that. Obviously, Oliver Glasner's like sort of ringing some bells, isn't he? Like making his stake for a claim for a better job right now. I don't think Iriola's going to leave anyway. Not that I'm even that fussed about him. So there's a few names. Obviously, I don't know. There's no chance in getting Inzaghi. I think he would be mad to leave Inter, but if you could do that, then that would be interesting. I'm also a fan of Terzic, right? But the only concern I have with Edin Terzic is that he's a bit of a control freak, and I think his history suggests that he wants to kind of have his cake and eat it. He likes to be a manager, coach, everything, and so I don't know if he would go down too well with working with Paratici and whoever else is going to be running the show. But yeah, there's a few names out there. It's certainly not as dry as it was in January, and I think there'll be more sackings to come. My number one choice would have been Pochettino, but he's not going to be ready until after the World Cup. And even then, I don't think you can do it next summer because the World Cup doesn't finish. Presuming America do okay, he won't be done with that until July, and we'll already be on pre-season. So that's another kind of delayed environment for us to get our business done next summer. So I think Pochettino might have to be the guy after the guy before the guy.
Guy after the guy before the guy. I mean, obviously, I like the idea. I think Javi. It was a weird one with Javi at Barca because he won the league. The following season didn't go too well, but then they were going to offer him a new deal, and then last minute they pulled out of the deal for one reason or another, and it didn't quite work. He did. Interestingly enough, he has said his next job he wants to be in charge of a project of at least 4 years. He said. So I mean, maybe we could sell him that. But I don't know, would he come to Tottenham? I don't know. I don't know if he would come to Tottenham. Maybe.
Is there any evidence to suggest that Javi is actually a good manager, though?
Well, he won the league at Barca. That's evidence, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Barcelona.
Yeah, but, you still have to be a good manager to win La Liga, don't you?
Yeah. But, I mean, there are plenty of managers probably that have won the league with Barca or Real, and you probably wouldn't take them here.
Well, most of them are pretty good, I would say.
Good managers, but you said the other day, Ancelotti wouldn't do well here, and he's won how many Champions Leagues?
Yeah, I think he's a very specific manager, but he's different because the way he plays, I don't think would work with us. You need like the world's best, like not necessarily like Javi. Maybe he's more implementing a system rather than Javi is more like have unbelievable defenders and then just let the front line do what they want essentially, and we don't have a good enough front line to do that. I don't think.
Who are your? I know Sim's obviously Angie all the way. If not Ange though, Sim, if your ideal situation is stripped away from you, who would you guys like to?
Yeah, I like the idea potentially of Glasner, but I think if we do switch to a back three, it does leave a lot of uncomfortable conversations for few players. How do we fit into a squad like that? Maddison and Decky and Johnson and Son and Tell and Odebear and all these kind of players. They might have to be some tough calls made there in the front line if we do move to a back three. As well, you probably there's going to be some squad readjustment, which again will probably take another summer of transition, and no one wants that again. I think Motta's an interesting shout. Thiago Motta, who's obviously doing very well at Bologna, didn't do so well at Juve, but Juve's at the moment seems to be a bit of a poison chalice. It's a bit of a weird one, so maybe it's a case of a good manager at the wrong time for them. And at Bologna, he played very good football. They were a very good attacking team. But for one reason or another, for some reason, went to Juve and he went super pragmatic, and it was just a very different kind of setup. I don't know. So, but maybe he's an interesting choice.
If Juve is a poison chalice, what's Tottenham?
Yeah, 100%. I think someone like Fabregas wouldn't be a bad option.
Oh, Sim, get off the stream right now.
Wouldn't be a bad option.
Fabregas as Tottenham manager. Come
Robin Van Persie will be next up on your list, will it, mate?
Come
on, we doing it?
He would be a good manager, I think.
We're not entertaining the conversation of Cesc Fabregas, surely.
That's the only problem is he's an Arsenal and Chelsea legend. That's the only problem. He's done a brilliant job at Como, and he plays great football. He's done a brilliant job at Como. He's the kind of manager I think people want, an up-and-comer. Not him specifically, but like an up-and-comer who plays good football, who's got different ideas about football, and maybe can be ahead of the curve and thinks differently to maybe other people. He could obviously. I don't know if he would take the job.
Literally, I feel like I want to throw up. Cesc Fabregas, you want to see manage Tottenham? Come on.
Just from a manager perspective, purely wouldn't be the worst.
What about Michael Carrick? Any sort of love for a player like him, or a Scott Parker, like an ex-Tottenham guy?
If we're going to go down that route, you'd probably go maybe McKenna, who's I know just got relegated, but maybe we just do a company, get him in, and hope that he can upscale his kind of tactics to better players, kind of thing. And former Tottenham coach as well. There's a lot of buzz around him. He got offered the Chelsea job and the Man United job, didn't he? Last summer, and he turned them both down.
Definitely be the best shout out of those three. Scott Parker worries me because every time he comes into the Premier League, he's terrible. Goes back down straight away. In the Championship, he does brilliantly, but there's also a sentiment to say, he's a young manager learning his trade. Can he do better with better players? Although you look at some of the teams he went down with, doesn't look good for him.
Yeah. How about you, Ben? What's your number one choice?
Mine is Glasner. I've said Glasner for a while. I mean, I first said Iraola, but I'm not too. I don't know. There's just something about Iraola that doesn't sit right with me at this moment in time. But I think Glasner, and I think the squad that we do have is well suited to play that system. 3 at the back. I've always said it. I think we've built a team now that would be brilliant for Antonio Conte, and I think it'd be brilliant for Oliver Glasner as well. And probably we'll get Glasner in, and in a few years' time we'll have a team perfect for Ange Postecoglou. So this is just the way that we run this club, unfortunately.
Yeah, always a day late and a dollar short, or whatever they say, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think it's a clean conversation. I think that there's always going to be risk. What about who was I going to say? Any interest in like a De Zerbi, someone like him? There's links to him at the moment, isn't there? But I just feel like he would have Daniel Levy's throat, he's got that around Daniel Levy's throat within about 5 minutes. I don't think he's the right guy.
De Zerbi will end up finishing the way Conte finished.
I'm sure you'd love his press conferences, Sean.
Yeah, probably, mate. Probably. I had a problem with it at some point, though.
The thing is, though, I don't really like this conversation about new managers and about anti-Ange and all that kind of stuff. And I've been banging the drum with that all season. I really have. But when we're sitting here a week before a final, I just feel we just need to be 100% Ange in at this moment in time.
Well, I'm 100% behind him for the next week, for sure. 100%. And if he wins, I will absolutely give him the credit because he's done what no other manager's done. I'll give the players all the credit, and I'll give Daniel Levy the credit because apparently the buck stops at the top. So it's not an argument that I like to present. I personally don't think that Daniel Levy will be responsible for the successes, just like I don't necessarily hold him entirely accountable for the failures. I think it's more of it's an overly simplistic argument, right? To just say that let's just abdicate responsibility for people that are employed and paid very well to do their job. But apparently the buck stops at the top. So if we do win, then I'm looking forward to seeing people who would never normally give credit to Daniel Levy giving it because they make the argument that everything that's happens at Tottenham Hotspur is his responsibility. So be interesting to see the outcomes there.
But 17th.
It's true. That's true. Good point. Good point. Well made.
Do we trust Don Fabio to appoint a new manager?
Yeah, Paulo Fonseca. Paulo Fonseca is going to be our next manager.
Gattuso. The managers he had lined up was.
That's a fair point, mate.
And he picked Nuno. I know Nuno's is a good manager, and obviously maybe just not right guy, wrong time, just wrong fit. But it wasn't exactly like a great lineup, was it? When Fabio?
No, listen, mate. I spend a lot of time obviously with Johnny and with Dave, Irish Hotspur, and those guys wax lyrical about the Don. Non-stop and think that he's like the second coming of Christ or whatever. And I'm like, we can remember all of the good purchases that he, was responsible for, but there was some stinkers in there as well along the way. I don't think he's, I don't think he's the Messiah or whatever. I think he's good. And I think it would be great if he came back in and had some conditions in his contract, because I think that he's got the leverage to be able to say, you want me back? Okay, well, I want to have final say, or I want to have more control, or I want to have these things and contractually stipulated line items. And I think that he could work well maybe with Vinny, but do I think that duo is going to magically transform us towards this team that gets, a higher percentage of our transfer strategy right. Not sure. I think he had a good he had a good track record. Whatever he did with the youth team looks like it was a relative success. But as I say, there were some good signings amongst his first team acquisitions, but there were also some stinkers too. And I just think that the quality in the league is so tough right now, and it's becoming like a new world order in football with the Aston Villas and the Newcastles that are emerging. It's not going to be easy. And if Tottenham are a team and everybody else are a team that just expect Champions League qualification every year, I think that's going to be, there'll be more disruptions to other teams in that kind of ecosystem that are built and set up with cost structures that require Champions League revenue to sustain it. Because I think that there's more and more teams that are sort of champing at the bit to participate in there. The quality is it's tough, right? So it's going to be interesting. But do I think Paratici is going to be like, the saving grace? Not necessarily, but I'd rather him here than Johan Lang. Do you guys?
Yeah. I think
Well,
they'll work alongside each other, and I think Johan Lang will probably, focus more on the youth recruitment, which he's done very well at since he's coming to this club. There's no two ways about that. And Paratici will be the one overseeing the whole ship, I think.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it for sure. But there are some monsters out there in the director of football kind of role, right? Like the guy who was at PSG for a long time. Isn't he going to? Has he just gone to Manchester United, or has he got? I'm trying to think what his name is.
Who? Luis Campos, Paul Mitchell.
Luis Campos, yeah, Luis Campos.
Campos is number one, isn't he? He's number one. I mean, he's the one that's overseen, isn't it, this PSG rebuild?
I think the guy from Inter would be the one I would want. I don't know. I can't remember his name. Right, yeah. I think he knows how to work on a budget, and he knows how to build a squad with limited resources. He's done it time after time, and Inter keep challenging, keep winning, being right at the top of Serie A, and also they've made 2 Champions League finals in the past 3 years, all while losing players consistently, players like Hakimi, players like Lukaku, always reinvesting that money, even getting free transfers. They're unbelievable in the free transfer market as well, and I think all under
Would
the
that
guise
work
of
in the
limited
Premier
budget.
League though?
Why not? You think this Inter team wouldn't work in the Premier League?
I mean,
In the
potentially,
Champions
but
League final.
you got players like Henrik Mkhitaryan like doing really well for them. Like he was crap for Arsenal.
Okay, well maybe that's an Arsenal thing. I think if, there's a reason they've made 2 Champions League finals in 3 years and won the Serie A, could win it again this year. It's on a knife edge at the moment, but I think he would be the one that I would say if Levy wants someone who can really work under certain. In a strict capacity, he's proven. I think at Inter, I think before Inter as well, he's proven he can do a phenomenal job, and is always finding solutions.
He before Inter?
Can't remember. I think I can't remember off the top of my head. But
Must have been phenomenal then.
No, I read somewhere before Inter as well. What's his name?
Marotta.
He also did a good job before Inter as well. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got Marotta who's rebuilt that squad, but I mean, the key thing for them has been Inzaghi, hasn't it? He's really.
Under Conte as well. They won the league.
Well, I mean, 2 brilliant managers, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've also got the draw. Don't forget, right? Obviously Italian football doesn't have the resources that the Premier League does across the park, but what they do have is similar to the kind of predicament I think that Tottenham are in sometimes, when if you want to close the gap on the boys at the top, like the big 5 that win all the trophies or most of them, then you either have to go out there and find nuggets of gold on a consistent level, or you have to try to compete with the best for the best names out there that are emerging. And unfortunately, we saw it with the likes of Luis Diaz, but not just him. There's a never-ending stream of examples. Look at Manchester City, right? When Manchester City want to go and sign Mamouche, for example, there's no sales pitch that's necessary. There's no ability. There's no need for Pep Guardiola to get on the phone, or like there is for Ange Postecoglou to try and twist their arm to come here and do the sales spiel. It's no, I'll come to you. Of course I will, because you're going to pay me decent money. The club is not going to worry about the fee if they've identified the player, and you have the draw of the trophies, right? If you're going to City or even latterly Manchester United, despite they're in their their quagmire of consistency, they're still able to convert trophies, fairly regularly. Same with Liverpool, and obviously Chelsea also got the benefits of that whole era, that an ecosystem that started with Roman Abramovich, whereas Tottenham don't have that draw, so you have to get on the phone and compete. And if you're going after the players that those teams are going after, you're probably going to miss out. So you go to that second tier, and then you end up overpaying for players that are not really good enough to make the difference anyway. And so, like, you have teams like the Brightons and the Brentfords that have that amazing ability to identify brilliant up-and-coming players and pay 5, 6, 10 million pound, whatever, for them. Tottenham can't do that. They should be able to by now, by the way. We've been talking about data systems for however many years, and yet we still don't have anything like a model that's as, like, even fit to lace the boots of what Brentford and Brighton have got with Star Lizard and whatever Blenheim's version.
What do we use? Do you know?
Probably Y Scout, to be honest. Just give me a call. I've got a subscription, Daniel. No, I don't know what we use, but, like, you know, I was looking at Bloom's. He's gone and bought a 26% stake in Hearts, right? So another plug in there, like a minor, and it's only cost, like, I think he spent like 12 million quid or not even maybe that on it. Like to Brighton, it might be a decent sum of money, but for Tottenham, that's a couple of Beyoncés, you know. And for me, I think that there's so many missing pieces to our overall jigsaw. I'm not saying that Tottenham ENIC were the groundbreakers on multi-club ownership back in the 90s. Obviously, we had to divest, our owners divested the interest in Rangers and Slavia Prague and all that stuff for Chenza, because the UEFA rules, like, we didn't cross the line crossed us. But I'm not saying that they necessarily saw those multi-club ownership models as the same way it's viewed today, which is like all of the transference of skills and acumen and all those things. They just probably saw it as monetary and financial vehicles to make them more money. But we've got a history of doing it, and there's a missing piece there that other teams around us have the benefits of, because if you can go and plug into an ecosystem and there's a pecking order that's clearly delineated, then you can create, like what City Football Group have done, but on a smaller level. You can go and buy a team and make that team play to your same sort of system, and the loans and all that. You know, it all kind of makes sense for relatively small sums of money. And the other thing is, why do we need to, like, go and build our own data strategy? Why don't we just go and buy a fledgling data mining company that operates already in sports betting, just like what Star Lizard does at Brighton? There's loads of them out there. There's loads of them, and they are already built and set up and have brilliant people, brilliant minds that are data scientists that come out of Cambridge or Oxford or whatever else. Just go and buy one of them for like 15 million quid and plug it into your ecosystem. And I'm sure it's not as simple as I'm making it out to be. I'm sure it's more complex than it looks. But we've been talking about this for 2 years. The club said themselves that they were going to move in that direction about 18 months ago. And what it looks to me is the way that we use data is that our like people like Lang identify the players that they want and then go and plug them into the data and then validate the opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. Versus look through the data for what you need and then go and filter it out and find 25 players around the world and then go and send your scouts out into that region to go and figure out whether they're the right fit. I think we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit in the method, but like I say, you know, like there's no disgrace in acknowledging that other people are better at doing things than you are. And I think that Daniel Levy should really just, like, you know, go and buy a company that's set up. There's, as I say, there's dozens of them out there, more than dozens. There's like, I can name probably 10 that are on the New York Stock Exchange, right? So, like, just go and pick up one of them. And a lot of things becomes a lot easier, right? Because like I said, sorry, this is a long-winded answer, but like the inability to go and compete with the biggest teams for the best names because you don't have the draw means you have to fish in a different pond. And when we fish in that smaller pond, we overpay for the most part. Most of our bigger purchases have been mistakes, right? Most of them. So just, you know, change it up a little bit, and I think we could have some material results.